Hey guys, welcome to the last part of the agriculture unit lecture. Sorry I'm out today. Had a kid I needed to take care of. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through this lecture. I'm just going to go through basically from where we stopped, which should for most of you guys be Green Revolution, all the way through to the end of the lecture. We're going to get this lecture out there on YouTube so you guys can watch it whenever you want to. If you have any questions, of course, we're going to discuss this in class tomorrow and a little bit on Thursday, but don't forget we have a test on Friday. Okay, our test on Friday is going to be over the entire agricultural unit. We'll review on Thursday, and don't forget you have your reading quiz on Wednesday. All right, so let's get started with the Green Revolution. When we look at the Green Revolution, we talked about the problems of the Green Revolution, issues that came up with overuse of land because we gave countries, these periphery countries, all this new technology, things like salinization, topsoil loss, desertification. It was very capital intensive. We talked about this idea of terminator seeds, which are seeds that don't reproduce more than once. You plant them, the crop grows, but then the seeds that crop produces doesn't produce a new crop. So there was that issue, so you had to continue to buy seeds over and over again. Fertilizers are expensive, pesticides are expensive. It created issues with pests becoming resistant to poisons, resistant to pesticides, so we had these kind of new species of super pests. Also, chemical runoff into the water supply was a problem. There was also an issue with mechanization, this new form of farming causing a hike in productivity, but less of a demand for workers. So the workers were losing their jobs because the jobs they used to do were now being done by machines. And then, of course, sustainability. Is the Green Revolution sustainable? Can you continue to work with these hyper-intensive agricultural practices and not exhaust the land? Can it be something that can keep going from year to year to year to year? And that was an issue. They weren't sure. So critics like Malthus and DeBlay would have a problem with Green Revolution sustainability. Okay, next slide. And by the way, if you haven't figured this out yet, I'm going to go slide for slide and with the PowerPoint that I posted on Edmodo for you guys to look at. Okay, some of the positives. This would be Rubenstein, Bozerup. Creating more food is a positive way to deal with the population. You had higher yield crops. You could feed more people. Okay, you can say what you want about the Green Revolution, are GMOs good or GMOs bad? Is it going to exhaust the land? But for the immediate, now, for the present, the Green Revolution was a great thing because we were able to feed more people with the food we were creating. And also you could now start to grow crops in new places. In places that you wouldn't traditionally be able to grow these crops. The seeds were modified, the species of plant were modified, but they could grow in places that traditionally couldn't sustain crops. All right, let's talk about the third agricultural revolution. This is what is happening right now. We're going to talk about this more in class on Tuesday, but just to give you a basic idea. Extreme mechanization of farming. Okay, extreme mechanization of farming, stuff that we see today. Machines that can literally pick fruit right off a tree, massive combines, GPS and GIS used to track exactly where things are planted and when they're ready to grow. Tractors can literally guide themselves now. What this means is you need a lot less labor, so that's lower cost as far as paying people to do the work. It is a little bit higher upfront cost because these machines are expensive, but lower cost in the long run because you're paying less labor. You have better working conditions. Farm jobs are mostly air conditioned now. Like if you get inside a tractor, there's air conditioning. There's literally tractors come with iPod docks, and it's not, it's not as rough and rugged as it used to be, so to speak. Also, chemical farming, synthetic fertilizers, new pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, insecticides. Basically, these are all, we've come up with enough fertilizers and pesticides to specifically tailor to kill just certain bugs or to make sure that certain plants grow and other plants don't, to control any possible issue of contamination with the plants. But the problem with this is we don't really know the environmental impact of some of these pesticides and some of these poisons that we're putting into our water, putting into the ground. What are the long-term effects? That's something that's a little scary. There's a slide on here about a black widow spider getting into some grapes. We'll talk about that later. It's not important for the test, just interesting. Refrigeration of meats and veggies. This is a big thing. We've talked about this already, but we have now refrigerated transportation, refrigerated storage. It extends the life of food, okay? Whether you're talking about meat, vegetables, dairy, all these things are getting... The life cycle of these foods is getting longer and longer because we can store them properly as opposed to years ago when we could not. What impact would this have on people who grow produce or dairy products or meat? Now you can get produce from all around the world. You could get steaks from Argentina. You could get milk from wherever, although I don't know why you want to do that. Milk is milk pretty much. But you can get food from different parts of the world that previously you couldn't because now that can be transported in a safe and effective manner. When you get it, it's still fresh. Okay, number 4, GMOs, okay? Genetically modified foods. Basically what this means is you're combining the DNA of different species of animals, different species of plants, whatever the case may be, to make a new, previously non-existent species of a plant or an animal. And we're doing that a lot, okay? There's examples of where we've taken DNA from tobacco, from jellyfish, from potatoes, from tomatoes, and combined them all together. Why would we do this? Sometimes it makes the plants more durable. Sometimes it gives them a quality that they lacked previously that allows us to farm them easier. Is this a good thing or a bad thing? Well, from a production standpoint, it's a great thing. Okay, GMOs have made higher yield crops, have made us more prolific and proficient farmers, but it's also a little dodgy in cases because do we know what's going to happen to us from eating these foods that are not natural, okay, that are lab-created foods in a sense? Is there going to be issues down the line with what it does to our bodies? Does it cause cancer? Does it cause abnormal growth? We don't know yet. We don't know yet. But GMOs are out there, and we have them, and we've been using them more and more and more. There's a lot of pro cons, which we're going to talk about as well on Tuesday. It's not the same as selective breeding. Okay, we're not talking about saying, oh, we want this cow to breed with this cow. We're actually splicing DNA, changing DNA in animals. I'll show you guys a picture tomorrow of, jellyfish DNA that's been spliced into pigs. The pigs glow. It's a little concerning. But we said benefits. It cuts down on the disease of plants, the droughts. They're more pest resistant. They have higher yields of food. It's interesting. Okay. The rise of agribusiness. Rise of agribusiness. Okay, agribusiness is corporate farming. Okay, where a corporation not only owns a farm, they own the entire process of producing food. Okay, so where it used to be, you had a farm grew, let's say they grew corn, and then they sold their corn to a canning company who then sold that canned corn to a grocery store who then sold it to you. What we have with the rise of agribusiness is what we would call vertical integration. Okay, vertical integration, which means you have the production, storage, processing, distribution, marketing, retailing, all being owned by the same company. So let's say we're talking about Kroger brand corn. Kroger owns the farm where the corn is grown. They own the seeds, the rights to that. Then they own the trucks that ship the corn to the canning plant. They own the canning plant. They own the trucks that ship the corn from the canning plant to the store. They own the store that sells it to you. Okay, they own the entire process. That's vertical integration of farming. Okay, and this happens in many different types of companies, many levels. We're going to talk tomorrow about the 30-30-30-10 rule, which is a little bit complicated, so I want to tell you in person what that's about. Let's see. Globalization and food manufacturing. We'll talk about, multinational, transnational corporations, the fact that there's a lot of multinational corporations that own food manufacturing and food production. They grow stuff in different parts of the world. It gets sent back to the United States. LDCs grow it, MDCs consume it, things like that. They own, like I said, all the processes, canning, refining, packaging, packing. What's the issue? with this? What's the issue with multinational corporations owning all the entire process? Well, first of all, if you look at it from an LDC point of view, from a less developed country's point of view, it's killing the subsistence farming industry because all farmers are moving towards growing commercially, which means that those farmers now in those countries, or the people in those countries in general, have started importing their food. Goes back to the international debt piece that we've been talking about this entire unit. Capital flight, who's making the money off these farmers? Where's that money eventually going? Those multinational corporations, while they may work out of a couple periphery countries, the money usually goes back to the more developed countries where the ownership of that company is. So you have capital flight, you have an issue with subsistence farming. In some cases, if those companies get so big, we have issues with sovereignty, neocolonialism, which we've already talked about. You guys should have that. All right, number 7 on third agriculture, biotechnology, using organisms to improve other organisms. Okay, transgenic patents. This is a part of GMOs in a sense. It's a very, very specific part of GMOs. We'll talk about this more in class. This is just a bunch of examples that I want you guys to look at. You need to be able to compare the Green Revolution versus the Third Agricultural Revolution. We'll talk about this in class as well because I want to talk about these questions with you guys. How are the settings different? How are the goals of each different? What unique problems does each face? They're similar. Green Revolution, Third Agricultural Revolution, similar, but different in the way they've affected people, the purpose of each one, and the fact that we can kind of see the results of one already and we can't see the results of the other. But we'll talk about that in class. Let's see. Rostow's model. Let's see. Let me talk. We'll save Rostow's model for class. Take a look at Rostow's model. Take a look at these 3 slides. Read through them. Okay, so we can cover them quickly in class, and that'll be the last part of the unit. All right. So that's it for today. You should be looking at this Monday afternoon, Monday night. This is when I want you guys to take a look at this. Good luck. And I said, any questions you have over these notes, we will talk about this in detail tomorrow when I'm back. All right. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.